Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Wealth Architecture with Bruce Wernick and Jason Safford. I'm your host,
Hey
Jason
guys.
Safford. And Bruce, how are you doing
Hi.
today?
Outstanding. How are you? Doing
Awesome.
great.
So today we're going to talk about executing your plan. And, this is basically following up on some, past episodes where we talked about your plan and, really getting things together. But today we're going to talk about executing. So you got your plan, and what's the first thing that you can do in your plan?
Well, you got first thing you have to plan what you everything decided upon what you're going to be doing with it. The first thing you have to do is execute it. We got
Okay.
to make sure we put it in place. Uh, and I say that because I've reviewed people's buy-sell agreements all the time. But the craziest things are these business owners are spending lots of money to have attorneys draw up these paperwork, right? And they are the buy sell agreements they think is put into place. But guess what happens when I'm looking at their paperwork? The last thing to be done isn't done. And what's that last thing that needs to be done? They need to sign it. They haven't executed their buy sell agreement. They haven't done. They paid the attorneys for drawing up the paperwork. But what didn't they do? He didn't sign it. So in their heads, they're thinking, okay, it's done. We're sleeping safe at night. But guess what? It didn't. It wasn't executed. And a perfect example of that was a case in Texas where these two business owners had this buy sell in place. One of them passed away. The other's wife was coming after him for the money, and her partner, her husband's partner said, "I don't owe you a dime. We never executed this. The business is all mine."
Wow.
Um, and it went to court, and the judge held it up, said they never signed it. So when you're saying what's the first thing we have to do with our plan, we've got everything put in place. We got to sign it. We got to make sure it's ready to go. And not only that, we got to make sure we implement it. How are we implementing it? Are we funding it? How are we going to get the money to do so? Are we paying the paying into the plan? We want to make sure that this plan is set and ready to go and just doesn't fade off into the distance, into the sunset, like because of silly mistakes like not signing the paperwork.
Yeah. So you bring up a really good point, which is that execution is as much about taking action just in terms of getting your paperwork together and making sure that it's properly signed and official, officially legal, not
Right.
just a legal document, but binding. And if you are somebody that has a bunch of assets, and you've just accumulated stuff, but you don't know, and now you want to, you've created a plan, you want to go forward. How do you best protect your plan from disaster? I mean, obviously things aren't necessarily always
Right.
going to go the way you want them to, but how do you protect your plan from total disaster and destruction?
Well, we like to, you have to, one thing for sure is you have to monitor. And you don't have to monitor every day, but you have to and keep your eye on it. You don't have to be like that day trader who's on E-Trade, hitting refresh, watching his numbers go up and down, hit refresh, okay, and watching it let you happen. That's going to drive you crazy. What you got to do is just go in and make sure you have to monitor it on a daily basis. Just make sure everything's still going. Make sure that your business is still going. You don't want to get business. You want to run the business. You don't want the business to run you, right? So you want to make sure that everything is in order, that you are able to continue doing what you need to do to make sure the business is running, or even your plan is running. Because your plan is your business, right? You want to make sure that it is up and running. Are
That's
you? Go ahead.
I was going to say that's a great statement. Your plan is your business. So again, when you design your plan, you are in fact designing your business. And what I hear you saying is that once you design your business, the only way to properly protect that business is to be taking action proactively every day on not only building the business, but monitoring it. I heard you use that word, that you want to be actively monitoring it. So let's step
And
back.
it,
So Go ahead.
It doesn't have to be an hourly monitor, like I said. Just monitor it like once every 2 days. Just make sure that, especially if you're in the market, you want to make sure that the market is that your positions are being taken care of, and that you're not taking a slide. And you have to be aware of what's happening in the market in itself, because I mean, just like today, for example, the market's taking a big slide because you've got some renegade players in the market who are trying to manipulate and manipulate the market by utilizing, and it's totally all legal. They're just having this communication with each other saying, hey, let's go after this one company, let's all buy it and push the guys out. And that's what they're end up doing. And they're taking advantage of weakness. And so as monitoring your plan, you want to make sure that you're not on that weakness link being pushed out. In this case, you probably won't be, but it's just, you want to make sure that anything can happen. And that if there's a dive coming, you want to get out as soon as you can so that you have at least something to take care of.
So obviously, you know, even in designing your plan, you have a not a self-destruction button, but a push in case of emergency button.
Right.
You know, where you can bail on certain things. But that brings up another point, which is really that if you've designed your plan properly, you're looking at every execution as a scenario that has kind of an A or B choice. You know, if you follow A and you execute, things are going to happen. If you don't follow A and you go to B, things are going to happen that way. And it's just a matter of making sure that you're executing, and the failure is not executing.
Exactly. And by the way, if A happens, and if you do A, but then something doesn't happen what you want it to happen, like there's outside forces, I mean, like COVID or things that can come in and change things up, you really shouldn't fuss and press over it so much, because as someone who's monitoring your plan, you know you have to make adjustments. And that's the key, is that if you have a plan in place and things are there, you want to make sure that you have the ability to make adjustments and make a pivot when you need to pivot, because things aren't going the way you'd like them to go. And the main thing to think about there is it's not the way you want it to go, but things may have changed in your life that need to change. And that's how you need to be able to go out back and adjust your plan accordingly and as needed.
And when we talk about executing plans and really, you know, just getting past the signing of the paperwork, then it's a matter of, you know, obviously you've got to put together the right team to really make your plan, you know, happen the way you want to.
Right.
And whether or not you have assets to begin with, or you're starting from scratch, understanding how you assemble your team and communicate with them is really the most critical aspect of execution.
Exactly.
So how do you know, or how do you identify the right people to help you execute your plan?
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I like to work with my clients as their quarterback. All right. We go in, we sit down, we want to identify their goals or objectives, put the plan in place. And then we want to make sure we go to the attorney. We want to have the right trust and estate attorney in place that we'll work together with. We want to make sure that everyone works in a cohesive unit, like the fingers on your hand, they work together to lift up a cup. You want to make sure that the accountant's talking to your financial advisor, your financial advisor talking to your business planner, to your CPA, to your attorneys, and everybody should be working together to make sure that we're all in line with the goal that you have. And you need to have one person on there to quarterback that team. And it's, in my case, I like to be that person because I'm a little bit controlling that way. It's probably what I'm really controlling on, is because I want to make sure that my clients are taken care of with a white glove, and that they know that they can trust what we're doing, just to make sure that their best interests are taken care of. You know.
So I like that. So basically what you're saying is that you try to take charge with your clients financial portfolio or their financial plan, and really help identify who else needs to be on the team with you,
Right.
as well as what the execution strategy really needs to look like, in terms of how the plan is really carried out. So when you then identify people for them to work with, what are the criteria that you look for in the people, that will best match with your client?
Responsiveness is key. I want to know that the person that we're working with is going to be responsive to not just me, but to the client and to the other parties at hand. Like I said, it's so vital that we're working together. I mean, it can't be like that scene in Major League when the assistant coach comes in and goes, you lollygag on the infield, you lollygag off the infield. What does that make you? What's your lollygag? Because the right hand's not talking to the left hand, and we don't have any way of communicating with each other. We want to make sure that everybody is together on the same page and working the best interest of our client. Because it's collectively, it is our client. And if somebody, and you're establishing that relationship with the other professionals at hand, and you want to make sure that we're all, you don't need to have a fiduciary title. I think by being in business for your client, I think that's your fiduciary responsibility, is making sure you're doing what's best for your client. So if the CPA is dropping the ball because they don't think that what the plan that the CPA, that the stockbroker or the financial advisor is doing over there, they can't be having arguments. So they all have to work together. And it's also important that everybody know each other's roles and know, for example, I know a lot of the tax laws. I'm not an accountant, but I need to know what's important, what's going to be best for my client. Is a cash balance plan going to be the best thing for the client, or is a profit sharing going to be best? That deals with a lot of taxes, and I know everything about my client, what's going on with them. It allows me to actually work cohesively with the accountant to say, hey, we should do this because I think there's going to be a problem down the road. Because I know that the client has a child with special needs. But we don't want anything to be left to the child. We got to create this trust. Okay, attorney, come in, build this trust so that we know that the insurance is going to fund the trust to take care of the child when they're an adult. Or it's going to go to the sibling to take that money to use so that that child that grows up is taken care of by a sibling, and there's no stress on the sibling's spouse to think, why do we have this to take care of this child? I'm sure I love your brother, I love your sister-in-law, but we need to live our own life. It's really draining us. So these have complications and issues we take care of, and that's part of the plan. What's the plan and how we put it in place? So that's everything that needs to go into consideration on putting these plans together.
And one of the things that happens, as you go along and plan, is there are outside forces that can shift your plan. You had mentioned to me the other day that with the incoming administration, that some of the tax laws, you brought up your knowledge of the tax laws, that especially with estate plans, that this is going to be a big issue going forward. And that obviously affects people's financial plans.
Exactly. Again, I said it in a previous podcast, and I'll say it again. People don't fail to plan, they just fail to plan.
Right. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Right, exactly. They don't plan to fail. They plan to fail to plan. That's what. And it's so with the new administration coming in, they're looking to throw their agenda, lack of a better term, agenda. It's not an agenda. It's what their goals are in the administration. Last administration, they had the exclusionary of a husband and wife on the federal level, close to $26 million. So what does that mean? Your estate is valued over $26 million. You will have to pay an estate tax on dying husband and wife. Now, there are a lot of people with that problem, but for the most part, it doesn't really affect a lot of us. But come the new administration, who is trying to make up some losses and also our economy going to where it is with the need to pay off some bills. I'm trying to say this most the politically correct way of saying it. So taxes will going to be increased. Either taxes increased or the range is going to lower on the estate tax. There's talk that they're going to lower the estate tax possibly to $1 million. Let's say, so if that happens, your common person, your average person who owns a house in the city, their house is probably valued close to $1 million. So anything above $1 million is going to be taxed on a federal level, which is close to 45%, right? So you've got someone passing away, husband and wife, when both spouses pass away, your estate is valued at $3 million. You've got a $2 million exposure. So someone who was planning for the previous administration's tax limit of 26, and then all of a sudden now it's 1 million, there's a big gap there that needs to be filled. So this is where you have to go back in and readjust your plan and take care of it. Now, especially, and one of the best ways of covering those shortfalls is through insurance. So the key is you want to make sure that insurance is there and that you can get it. Because as you get older, insurance you may not qualify for it. You may have health issues. It may be unfeasible to get it because it's going to be too priced out of your range. And then what's going to happen? You have to sell positive performing assets to cover the tax bill that when both parents have taxed or both taxed. Not only is that, another thing that the current administration is looking to do is they're trying to eliminate some of the capital gains. I just kind of read this briefly, and from my understanding, and I may not be totally correct on this, but my understanding is that they're trying to eliminate the step up in basis on capital gains. So that means if you buy a house, your parents had bought a house for $25,000 back in the day, and they lived in that same house until they both passed away at the age of 120, right? And the value of the house is moved and appreciated to $2 million. Typically, what happens is when you take ownership, when the heirs take ownership of the house and they sell it, there's a step up in basis of the cost of what the house is going to be when they sell it. Now, if they eliminate the capital gain, they're going to charge you, my understanding, and they're going to go back to the original cost of the purchase of the house. So can you imagine what that cost is, that tax is going to be to cover that capital gain from $25,000 to $1 million, $2 million home?
Yeah,
that's an enormous bill.
That's an enormous expense.
Right. So I don't know if that actually will go through, but I mean, this is the talk that happens, and this is something that me and my team we're so informed about what's happening, and we just try to keep not only just keep it in front of our clients and make sure they know what's happening, but we have to know what's happening. So we are on a daily basis educating ourselves and just keeping track of what's new and what's happening.
So a big part of execution is you got to get the documents formalized and valid. And then you've got to have the team that's really quarterbacking for you and finding the right people and understands exactly like you do specifics about both the market and administrations and all sorts of outside forces that are going to impact your overall plan and design for your future. And I think, from the standpoint of, where you go with this is obviously the measurement of success is based on, obviously how your team performs for you, but also how you stay on top of your team. Because if you're basically relying on your team to do everything and you're not an active participant, the problem is that they're not necessarily going to have clear direction on a consistent basis. And as things change, they're going to take, action based on, what they think, not what they know from you.
Right, and that's key. You said it right there. They have to be as act as a, they have to have as much action in there as possible. They have to be not just on top of us, which I'm sure they won't be because we'll be definitely on top of what we need to take care of. But it's good. I have no problem hearing from clients and saying, hey, do you think we should be doing this? Because it shows that they have a passion for what's important to them. And it's, you know, I can't care more about someone else's family than they do. You know, I have had a client that I was working with. I was trying, this is what I was signing up. I call them once in a while. I say, hey, we're ready to do this paperwork, we're ready to do this work. And they're like, yeah, we're going to do it, we're going to do it. They never did it. They kept pushing it off. And finally, I said to them, I go, hey, listen, I can't love your family more than you do. So when you find that time, when you're able to take care of that, let me know. It would be an honor to take care of them and to help get things in place for you and your family. But I can't do it alone. I need your help, and I need you to be actively involved with it as much as I am. So when you're ready, let me know. And he's kind of took that to heart, and the next day I got another phone call. So you're absolutely right. Let's take care of this. And we got both husband and wife involved, which is great because I want everyone to be a part of it because it's not just the husband's plan, it's not just the wife's plan, it's both. It's both parties' plan. It affects more than it affects the whole family.
Awesome. Bruce, I want to thank you. This was another incredible episode, and I look forward to next week when we really get into the nitty gritty on the
Thank
next
you.
steps. All right.
I love it.